what America was and what it can become. This is Liberty Town Hall.
Welcome aboard to Liberty Town Hall. The chairs are all gathered and glad you're among it with us today. I'm Greg Marshall. That's Glenn Wilson. He's got a comfy chair too. Appreciate you watching today as we've got a pretty good episode for you. Going to talk about the founding principles and how we can teach it to our young people. We have totally failed in that endeavor to a massive scale, literally to the 10th power, Glenn, and we've got to do something about it.
Absolutely. One thing that's encouraging to me is, as you can see with the interview with Bill coming up here, that there's a strong movement to start teaching the Constitution once again back in our classrooms at all levels. Bill Sage has worked very hard and diligently at trying to explain the reasons why these are so important. You don't know what liberties you lost until you know what you had, kind of mentality. You don't know what the government's doing wrong unless you know what they're supposed to be doing. You don't understand the role of federal government unless you've actually been taught it properly. And Bill's having a huge drive for state after state after state to get the youth taught the Constitution again, Greg. That's really, it's an exciting time when we can actually get that back in the classroom, I think anyway.
Bill's discussion is called Constituting America. It's a national movement that he's putting together to try to teach constitutional values and just the Constitution as a historical document in our classes. Instead of teaching so much international history, let's at least get a basis of how this country's formed, how it's supposed to operate, and how we move forward from here. That's important. Bill's going to be talking about it with us today. I hope you'll stick around. Glenn's going to be interviewing Bill Sage in just a moment. Stay with us, would you? It's Liberty Town Hall.
We're joined in the studio today with Bill Sage. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Glenn. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you back. The awesome thing that Bill's going to talk about today is refounding our constitutional principles back into our youth and our school systems. Isn't that really the goal here, is to get it back, taught back in school, the founding principles?
Yeah, Glenn, that's the idea. The whole idea, the problem with our country as a whole is that you have a bunch of leaders in Congress that have no idea what the founding principles are. And all through the history of the United States of America, it was the founding principles that made our country great.
Not the Constitution per se.
Well, that's
the
part
principles
of it.
that made up the Constitution. You're talking about going back.
The Constitution and the founding documents.
Natural rights level, way down here.
Natural law level, yes, natural rights level that's given to us by those inalienable rights given us to us by the Constitution.
Okay.
Through the natural law that's found throughout.
Okay, so it's not being taught in our schools anymore. So
no, and over the course of 40, 50, 60 years, the progressive movement has literally taken the curriculum out to a dwindle of the information that it should be.
So they're only talking about just a couple simple things about our government, not really the principles of our government, though. Is that what you're changing it? Not just talking about how it takes a bill to get passed of government class, but bring it down to where we explain why the principles are set up the way they are. Who's writing the curriculum?
Well, it's not so much, several curriculum is written now. It's the curriculum is being, most of it's written in Texas, as you probably know, right?
Right. Texas does most of the school books now, yes.
Yeah, and part of the problem is the constitutional curriculum that I had when I was a child, has been taken down to the bottom of the sea, so to speak, because you have a whole sea of curriculum. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of curriculum that's already in that ocean. All we got to do is bring it to the surface.
So you're saying these courses were already been laid out and planned out so they can be implemented right away?
Correct.
In the
well,
public school
actually,
system.
according to the legislation, and we do have the legislation. Okay.
Okay, we're going to get to that in just a second. We're going to talk about how Bill managed to get this right to the very edge here in Michigan and all the processes he had to do to get to it. But I wanted you to understand what he was talking about as a fundamental goal overall versus just how he got it. So perfect. I just wanted to back up and explain how these principles affect the school system and the kids and the morals and stuff that we got in there, right, Bill?
Right, Glenn. Exactly.
Okay, so if we go back and we read the Constitution, it doesn't get us all the way, as we talked about on the show. We have a moral aspect of our government besides just the written law of the Constitution. So in the founding principles, are you going to be talking about the morals as well as the law? or how's that
Well,
going
that
to play?
comes automatically by learning the founding principles from K through 12. Okay, now granted, I mean, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. There's going to be situations where you have like visual curriculum, maybe George Washington crossing the Delaware, for example, et cetera, Paul Revere.
Right.
Paul Revere's Ride, and those type of situations. And you start them off, but then by the time they reach 8 through 12.
So you're talking about
they get
putting a
meat and
course
potatoes.
in every single grade level, all the way through?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Okay, so it's not just one course that we're going to talk about the founding principles that happens in your junior or senior year on the way out the
No,
door.
you're not going to get just Patriot Day by Mr. Warner. Warren, right?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
It's Patriot Day, and it's one day a year where they have to learn the Constitution
Right.
in school. That's not enough. I
No,
mean,
so you're
there's
saying
no-
every day, every year, all through school, they should be talking about something about the principles.
I'm not talking about every day, but classes, they'll have the full curriculum with year-end tests to make sure that these children are learning
So they're going to
and
get,
that they're being taught.
so they're going to get
What?
actual school credits for these, so it counts towards their degree or their diploma.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
With year-end tests, and they have to answer.
What did you have to do to get Michigan on board with this?
Well, I'm a
And
founder.
is Michigan on board yet, really? Is Michigan?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Michigan's
have,
on board.
We have a program that we created. Now, we'd like to take this out of the state. This is the first state to create this program, and it's the return of the founding principles, okay? And, I'm a Tea Party founder, you know that, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I know that.
Now, a couple of years ago, we started a committee, and it was myself and probably around 8 other individuals. And we formed a plan in order to get the founding principles back into our social structure. That's the whole idea. The idea is that founding principles are no longer in our social structure, and they were taken out through the school system. So the whole idea is to put it back in through the school system. And we came out with a plan, and we just initiated that plan, step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it went very smoothly, like clockwork, Glenn.
So you had to go through doing drafts and write-ups and get it
Resolutions,
to committee. You had to
okay.
write a resolution
Our
draft.
Attorney General, I wrote the first resolution, and then our Attorney General, Bill Schuette, Michigan's Attorney General, rewrote the resolution for me. That was part of the plan. And we took it to state committee meeting, which, for those of you that don't know what state committee meeting is, that's where delegates that represent precincts in every county go to state committee meeting, decide on what issues the Republican Party are going to take on for that year or the next year, et cetera. And our resolution...
Same with the Democrats, too. They have
Democrats
it,
do
yes.
the same thing.
Yep.
And I presented it to Issues Committee, and then we presented, long story short, okay? Then we presented the resolution to the main floor, where you have voting delegates from each congressional district, right? And we suspended the rules, and we voted unanimously in both Issues Committee
Yes.
and State Committee to pass the resolution to take it on to the Michigan Republican Convention to have it voted on there. Meanwhile, we had written...
So you had to take this through the Republican Party before you even
Absolutely,
got
get
to the
backing.
legislature.
Well, that was the plan. Now, you don't do that with
Okay.
all the bills out there, but this was a plan in order to get it to move along and get the support that it needs to get passed.
It's all
Okay?
about building support.
And actually, before the committee here, the second committee meeting, we'd had 2, all right? You had one in May of 2011 and one in August of 2011, okay? The first one, we had the resolution, didn't do anything, but the second one we had to pass. But in between there, we had conferences, Constituting Michigan conferences, where we wrote the legislation. The bill is HB 5240. You can look up on michiganvotes.org, and you can read the bill yourself. Very, very good.
Bill, if somebody wanted to get their state moving this direction, can they call you?
Absolutely.
What number could they get a hold of you at, Bill?
269-806-2775.
And your email address is wolfpack
Yeah.
at Yahoo.
Wolfpack MI.
WolfpackMI at
Yeah,
Yahoo.
now that's pack without a K. Wolfpack, P-A-C-M-I, at yahoo.com.
And you'll help anyone that wants to get this going and tell them how you did
Absolutely.
it. Because
Yes, and
in
we're
just a
looking for
couple
donors
minutes that we
as well.
got isn't really a good,
No, this
clear
isn't.
format to really explain it all. But
No, it's going to take an hour to explain all
it's
this.
going to take an hour,
Yeah.
and then they can give you you'll give them all the help they need, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, we'll be right back with more Liberty Town Hall. Stay with us. And And welcome back to Liberty Town Hall. We're joined in studio today by Bill Sage. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Glenn. Pleasure to be here.
Bill's here to discuss refounding the principles back in our school system. And let me see if I get this right, Bill. You want to start at the K-12 level
Absolutely.
and deal with issues of not just the Constitution, but the principles that our Constitution was based on. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And not just our Constitution, the whole country was based on founding principles, and it grew, not because of current ideologies, but because those ideologies created by those founding principles.
Well, how about you take this time here and tell America what all you've gotten done here in Michigan and where you hope it's going to go.
Again, the whole idea is to replace back into our social structure those founding principles that made our country great. Now, founding principles, those are created by those inalienable rights that are endowed to us
by God, right?
By our Creator through natural law.
Oh, Creator, sorry, God.
Yes, through natural law found throughout the Constitution and the supporting documents therein.
So,
and because we've gone away or we've migrated away from those founding principles, that's why we're in trouble. That's why we have a $16 trillion debt. That's why that's why our legislators are coming out with all this unconstitutional legislation.
mm-hmm.
Okay, like the
clearly
NDAA.
unconstitutional.
Clearly.
I think the NDAA, a couple paragraphs in there are clearly unconstitutional, like being able to, just take somebody and lock them away in Guantanamo without a trial.
To be honest with you, Glenn, I really think that most of our legislators have not even read the Constitution.
So, I guess the fundamental principle is if we can educate the youth so that they understand the principles of liberty and what our freedoms were based on, then we can elect future generations of politicians that can clean up this mess? Is that?
Well, yeah, and you can go to any speaker on constitutional issues that you wish to talk to, and they'll stand right there and they'll talk about how our founding principles were taken out of our social structure through the school system over the last 40 years of progressive control. Now the shame of that is only 17% of the population is progressive. The rest, 40%, is conservatives like you and myself.
So the silent majority is being overrun by a few.
By a few, correct. That's exactly what's happening.
Our whole sense of government was set up so that the silent voice was protected more than the loud squeaky wheel kind of mentality, the mob rule kind of mentality.
Under a constitutional republic that we are.
Right. Right. It's supposed to make it level playing field for everyone, regardless of how strong or powerful you are. Right.
Yeah.
So you think the important thing is getting at the education levels cleaned up at our schools, right?
I think it's one of the major fronts in this ideological war that we are in. And we are in an ideological war.
Now, you think you're making progress here in Michigan to make it a law where we have to teach this through K-12, right?
Right, K through 12.
K through 12, we'll have founding principle courses.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, starting in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, etc., that would be visual cartoons, just little things like Washington crossing the Delaware, or, that sort of thing. Paul Revere's Ride.
Paul Revere's Ride.
Like I learned when I was in kindergarten.
Okay.
Yeah,
so it progressively gets deeper into the issues as you go up through K-12.
Yes.
Okay.
From 8 through 12 being hardcore meat and potatoes.
What did you have to do to get progress made in Michigan?
Well, I started a committee. I'm a Tea Party founder, and we started a committee. Now, we went to several meetings where we taught the Constitution at Tea Party events, but all you were doing was preaching to the choir to people that already learned those values when they were in high school or kindergarten, whatever, like myself. And I learned everything in high school. But they no longer teach those principles. And the whole idea is to, under the bill, it's HB 5240. Okay, now we made a plan, we worked the plan PowerPoint for PowerPoint, okay, and it worked. We had the Attorney General of Michigan rewrite a resolution that I originally wrote, and then Bill Schuette, Michigan Attorney General, wrote it in his own language. And we presented that to the state committee to make a long story short. There was more, there was 2 different meetings, but I'll just use the last one, okay? We had written the legislation of a panel of 9 individuals, myself, Representative Dave Agema, Randy Heckman was running for Senate,
Yep.
Randy Heckman,
Yep.
Lori Raines, also Dr. Richard Ziley, he's a member of the State Board of Education, I think, as you well know. And Tom Stillings, he was on our panel. And we wrote the legislation in 3 different sittings. Then we took the resolution by Bill Schuette to state committee meeting, where I presented it to the issues committee. They passed it unanimously, Glenn. Okay,
Unanimous.
People want this. They want the
Okay.
return of our country, and the only way we can get our country back, it's going to take those same founding principles that created it in the first place.
Right.
And that's the
Absolutely.
only way we're going to get our country back. So we took it to state committee, took it to the main floor. Now, state committee, for those of you that don't know, is a meeting of delegates from all congressional districts in the state of Michigan. There's 15. And they vote on issues that they want the Republican Party to back. And our issues passed the issues committee, Constituting Michigan. Then we suspended the rules of the state committee, and we voted unanimously, not one nay vote, in favor of the Constituting Michigan Founding Principles Act, HB 5240.
Good.
In favor. This is big.
It's huge.
Wrote the legislation, got the bill number in December, okay? In this last Michigan convention, Republican convention, it was presented to the floor of the state convention.
That's at the Republican Party.
A Republican Party state convention. And my bill, or Constituting Michigan, was one of the two bills that was presented to the state. One of them was charter school caps, the other one was Constituting Michigan. Constituting Michigan passed by a vote of 1,205 to 26.
Wow.
That's big.
Bill, how would somebody get a hold of you if they wanted to set this up in their state and get constitutional principles back into their public school system? Would you help them do it? And how can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. We formed a PAC called We the People of Liberty and Freedom PAC, and it's just what it says. It's a lobbying group of We the People. Now, we hire representatives to represent us, but unfortunately, and this is just a modern day fact that we have to form our own lobby group, I guess. And it's called Wolfpack Michigan. My email is wolfpack, PACMI, @yahoo.com. Phone 269-806-2775. I don't want you to call that 673 number. Please. But,
Call the number you see on your screen,
yes,
everyone, right?
That's it.
Well, Bill, thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
And I appreciate you bringing the battle to the people here.
God
Thank you
bless
very much.
America, my friend.
God bless you.
Yeah.
We'll be right back with more Liberty Town Hall.
Glenn, that was a real good interview today at Liberty Town Hall with Bill Sage of his Reconstituting America campaign, and Constituting America campaign, which I think is a great movement, and I appreciate him doing that.
He's got passion too.
Yep.
He truly believes that the only way to save America is to educate the youth. And in order for that to happen, we have to get them to understand the principles in which this country was founded on. And I couldn't agree with him more. We have got to get people to understand what they're missing by all these freebies, these, like the Obama phones or whatever. People are thinking, what can the government give me? What can the government give to me? What they don't understand is what the government's taking from them and what the government's constantly taking. It affects our economy, our morals, our responsibilities to ourselves as well as to our country and to our brother citizens. So I can't encourage people enough to take a role in their local towns. Make sure that your school board is teaching the Constitution to these kids at all levels. Absolutely.
You know, what gets me too is, and this is important, I brought this up with Bill in a conversation I had with him on the radio side that we do at patriotvoice.us. And I talked to him, I said, Bill, I love this concept, but what do you do as far as we're asking people who have taught liberal theology for the most part? There's exceptions in schools. There's good people, there's good godly people in schools, but there's a lot of people who aren't. And we're asking a lot of those people who aren't to teach conservative Christian principles, which is how the founders envisioned this government. We're asking them to teach that in a historic way. So I'm glad that's one area he really covered, because they're actually working with Hillsdale College of Michigan and different facilities like that to be able to create a curriculum that will actually play on that, Glenn. And I think that's an important piece.
We're becoming known as the voice for the Tea Party all across America, because we're the only media, television media, that's really given them a voice. And I'm getting feedback all over the country from the importance of the message of the show and getting it out. and like patriotvoice.us, right?
Yep.
They can go there and listen to this. But I think it's important that the Tea Parties start looking at ways they can affect the youth, not just in the classroom, but in the homes as well. So, you know, we're almost getting organized enough to start really shaping the youth, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for watching today. We really appreciate it. We're out of time. We'll do it again next time. Check out our website, libertytownhall.com. I mentioned mine a moment ago. I'll sneak it in again. patriotvoice.us. I do a radio program from 3 to 6 Eastern Time in the afternoon across the U.S.
Great radio station, too. Absolutely. Great radio station.
I appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon. This is Liberty Town Hall.
Children should be educated and instructed in the principles of freedom. Defense of the Constitution, John Adams, 1787.